But that's just not how we are in veterinary medicine, which is so exciting that you can have an idea and just do it.
Welcome to Vet Life Reimagined. The WVC conference in Vegas is packed with some of the most accomplished and recognizable people in veterinary medicine. Specialists, researchers, influencers, and thought leaders who spent decades building their careers. But the speaker who I was most intrigued by, who I wanted to reach out to the most, was a veterinarian who is only a few years out of vet school, presenting on multiple stages, talking about how he was trying to make veterinary lives better through artificial intelligence, and unafraid to be vulnerable and open to people's concerns and criticisms. That's Dr. Jason Szumski. Jason is a full-time practicing veterinarian at a 24/7 ER/GP clinic. He's also the co-founder of VetSOAP, a veterinarian-owned AI platform built to solve real pain points for real veterinarians. Jason brings an engineer-like thinking, a clear sense of purpose, and a good filter for knowing which ideas are worth chasing and which ones aren't. And that last part, knowing when to say yes or when to say no, is honestly one of Jason's characteristics I was most intrigued by. Jason has figured out pretty early how to pursue multiple passions without losing focus, how to be action forward despite scattered thoughts, and how to build something meaningful while still showing up fully as a clinician and going home on time to be with one of his favorite things, his family. In this episode, we talk about how Jason, who thought he was going to be an aerospace engineer, ended up becoming an invested voice in veterinary medicine among colleagues who are decades into their careers. We get into how VetSOAP came to be, what he's discovered by using AI to analyze his own clinical conversations, and a new research partnership with PetSmart charities that could genuinely change how we understand the gap between the care veterinarians offer and the care clients actually accept. And no matter where you are in your career, if you've wondered whether there's more that you could be doing with the ideas in your head or are simply concerned with where vet med is heading, I think this one is really going to resonate. So let's get to the conversation with Dr. Jason Szumski. When did you know you started to get interested in veterinary medicine?
Yeah. So I'll give you the rundown. So high school Jason, 15-year-old Jason, really good at math and science. And so my calculus teacher said, you should be an engineer. You'd really like being an engineer. You like science. You get paid as much, because my whole life I want to be a human doctor. Try some engineering. So I went into aerospace engineering. I thought that was cool. I thought going to the moon was a interesting thought. Day one of class, we had a student that threw an airplane and landed it. It was like 300 feet, landed it on a 2 foot by 2 foot square. And I was like, okay, well, that's the person that should go to NASA, not me. That person needs to go to the moon. So then I went to chemical engineering, which felt more in line, science, math. I quickly learned that pea shelf life and how long peas last before they go bad, and the research behind that wasn't really what gets me going. And then one of my friends one day, it was like, you love animals and you want to be a human doctor. Why don't you be a veterinarian? And being honest, my mom just never took me to the veterinarian growing up. I didn't know that it was an opportunity. I didn't know what kind of education it took. I was so naive to the whole process. And so I switched to veterinary medicine halfway through my undergrad. And this profession is so cool. I've been in a couple different ones now, whether it was tutoring, whether it was engineering, and veterinary medicine really, really does have a cool career that I'm excited to kind of share some of my path and what moves me, because too often I think in this profession we take it for granted. And I want to make sure that we're staying positive and understanding that it really is an awesome profession.
It is. And one call out just hearing your story is, if people are bringing kids into your clinic, pay attention to them, give them a little attention, because that can be a big impact for a future veterinarian or vet tech in our midst. And so that's a special opportunity. And two, absolutely, I think people with different ways of thinking are also really important to bring into veterinary medicine. As we talked previously, I could just see your engineering mindset also really go, and it's really served you and the profession well, having you with that type of thinking. So also excited to get into it a little bit more. So your friend throws out this idea, you start on this path. When you started thinking about, getting into vet school and everything, did you have a certain idea of what you might do as a veterinarian? And did that change over the course of your veterinary school experience?
Sure. Yeah, it's changed. I mean, I graduated like 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago now. So we'll put the timing of veterinarian things at 7 total years. It's probably changed 15 times over the last years. And I think that's part of what's fun about veterinary medicine is there's so much breadth. Like you can do so much within the profession. If you want to do AI tech, if you want to do small animal medicine, if you want to do public speaking, I mean, there's so much that you can do. And so for me, when I had that conversation with my friend, my first thought was, okay, I'm a dog guy. I love dogs. My mom also, I'm not my mom a lot. I'm a big family guy. My mom told me growing up that she was allergic to cats, which we later learned in life that she wasn't. She just didn't like them. And so we never had cats growing up. So I was uncomfortable with cats. So I thought I was going to be, okay, I'm going to be a dog vet. And then quickly ended up getting a cat. Cats are awesome. My cat at some point during this call is going to jump on here because as soon as she hears me talking on the laptop, she will run across the screen. So cats and dogs was kind of my main focus. And then during vet school, we went into the pandemic, and that was an interesting time. I remember we were taking finals our first year. It was kind of that weird time where the COVID was popping words, but we didn't really know what it meant for the world. And as we were about to take our test, one of our professors slipped up and said, yeah, you guys aren't coming back next year, which was all news to us. We're like, whoa, like this was nothing we've ever heard of. We've never had anything where we shut down everything and go all virtual, right? Especially in school. I mean, in school, so during the pandemic, we really had to adjust. And I was a little techie guy. I was growing up. I was always the guy that people asked for support on stuff. And so I helped the University of Illinois kind of sort out their planning, recording, schedule, what works, platforms, how to use the platform, right? A lot of the teachers struggled with it. And so with that, a lot of opportunities opened up just from purely wanting to help out, right? And I think that's kind of, as we kind of talk about my journey, you'll see that that's where a lot of things stem from, is just wanting to be helpful. And so that's kind of where it started. And then it shuffled a couple of times. And within 3 months of graduating, I started a veterinary AI company that has several hundred, now 1,000 users that are using it every day to save them time. We're tracking burnout, which is how we connected. I analyzed all my burnout of all my conversations that I've ever had and tracked like, oh, Wednesdays are the worst days for me between 4 and 7 p.m. when everyone's vets are closing or tough times for me, right? And coaching is something that's really important to me. So we do all of this on the platform, and that's purposeful because my goal, again, is to help the profession. So if you would have told me 7 years ago, hey, you're going to start an AI company right after you've graduated, I would have said, no way, there's no chance. I need to practice. But the cool thing about this whole thing with AI and where we're at is that you can practice and be a business owner at the same time, which is a concept that is new to a lot of people.
Yeah. I commend you for taking something that could be really, really challenging, like a pandemic, because I think you graduated with your bachelor's in 2019. And so you're starting vet school like literally right in the middle and just kind of had to deal with it all through your vet school. And you made it productive. Like it really allowed you to pull out lots of different interests and skills that you had. And then also, I don't want to forget, because I think this sounds like a big part of your story too, and your skill set is around the business side, right? And being very much involved with the VBMA. So were you interested in business early on? Is that why you got into it? What was your experience with that organization?
Yeah, so a couple of highlights in vet school. One is the VBMA president. Most of the time, the VBMA is the Veterinary Business Management Association, for anyone listening that doesn't know. It's the second largest student-run organization behind SAVMA, the student AVMA. The cool thing about VBMA is that we bring in between 6 and 10 lecturers a semester to talk about things that are passionate to them. And so you get so many outside sources. I mean, so often in veterinary school, we get all of our specialists talking to it, which is great. That's what we need. But not often enough, we get people like, we had one person that came from Arlington, Virginia, who started her own chain of 10 hospitals. And I think it's really important that we have more women in leadership come and talk to students to tell you, you can have a family and run a business, right? Because that's a scary thought. And so it brings in people like that are able to give different opinions that we don't get in school. And so the VBMA is a really interesting club that really nothing else does what they do. And to answer your question, did I ever think I was going to go into business? Maybe. I always thought that leadership has always been something that's really important to me. High school soccer, high school baseball, captain, right? So leadership has always been innate, but I didn't really think about owning a business because the business side of it is scary. A profit and loss statement, having to fire people, having to hire people, right? That side was a little scary, but leadership was always the base of what it was. And that was how I recruited a lot of people to VBMA. You don't have to want to start your own hospital. You just have to want to be a leader or to get outside thoughts. And I think that stands true to where we're at. I mean, I was the class president as well. And so those kind of things went hand in hand where you just have a goal. You just want to help. And for me, the want to lead is to make people's lives easier. That's really the basis of it. The reason I want to run my own hospital one day is because I want everyone to come to work, enjoy working, leave on time, have a good quality of life while they're at work, be able to go to their own family's doctor's appointments, right? Like, don't feel guilty about doing stuff to take care of yourself. And that's the kind of leadership that I want to have in the clinic. And so, full circle, answered question. Did not think I was going to go into business, especially AI business, quickly. But everything changes. And one of my favorite quotes from one of our mentors, Dr. Andy Rourke, is do more of what you like and less of what you don't. And I stick to that. So at the end of the year, I'm like, okay, I had a really good year. I really enjoyed this. Whether it's professionally, like I thought I was going to want to do orthopedics. I did an orthopedic surgery. It didn't go great. And I've been doing a lot of diagnostic ultrasound, and that's been going much better. And so I like the diagnostic ultrasound. It's a little quicker. I'm a instant reward person. And so you get kind of your instant reward with the ultrasounds, and sometimes with the orthopedic surgeries, it can take weeks to get your reward. So constantly changing and constantly adjusting based on what I think makes me happy.
Yeah. And that will continue. Like throughout your career, you're constantly leaning in more to what you're interested in. And that's how it should be. You mentioned Andy Rourke. So you've had some great mentors that you've told me about, like Andy Rourke and Aaron Smiley. Did you meet these individuals through VBMA, or how did you come across them?
Yeah. When I was thinking about this podcast and kind of like, how did I get here and the time that I've gotten here? And it really is the power of the network. I think the network sometimes gets a bad rap, like networking gets a bad rap. Like it sounds a little sleazy, but it's not. It's genuine, or it can be genuine. So we're in the pandemic. We're doing our online stuff. As the class president, I had to welcome the next class, the pandemic class, to the University of Illinois. We couldn't be in person. We couldn't talk to each other. We couldn't be around each other. And so I made this virtual event. And my goal was to take 3 awesome public speakers and have them kind of come on this Zoom call and say, welcome to the profession. It's scary right now, but you're in for a great time. And so I brought in Andy Rourke. I brought in Betsy Charles. I brought in Adam Conroy, and had them all talk about their story. I mean, very, very different. I mean, if you've heard Betsy Charles' story, it's so moving and really grounds you to what's important. And Andy is like the world's best cheerleader. And then Adam Conroy is a go-getter. He's a buckle down and get it done guy. So it was really 3 different things. And so then Andy came on that call and saw how smooth it was going, all things considered, for just starting a pandemic. So he actually reached out and asked me to help him with the first virtual Uncharted conference. And so I helped him moderate and run that. After that, we kind of stayed in touch. And then I begged him and begged him and begged him. And he let me stay in his house for 2 weeks for a business externship during my 4th year, which is an experience I'll never forget. So that's kind of how we got close. And then, I mean, the Aaron Smiley business partner side, again, during the pandemic, trying to fix things, one of my professors said, it's not your job as a student to fix anything that's wrong with the university, right? We have people for that. And I said, whoa, it moves a little slow here. So anything I can do to help academia I'm happy to. And he said, and so then he connected me with Aaron Smiley, who's also a fixer. And so what I've learned in veterinary medicine is that there's not even that many idea people, but we'll say a lot more idea people, and not too many fixers. Not too many people say, how can we fix this problem instead of just talking about it? I think talking about it is a really important first step, whether it's burnout, whether it's note taking, but fixing it is more important to me. So that's kind of how we got connected through those. And so the power of the network, I mean, I have so many different connections, like Adam Chrisman from DVM 360 and Fetch. Met him through the VBMA. We had him give a talk through the VBMA. I mean, just so many connections came from those lectures. And again, the network, right? Be genuine. And when you're hosting people, I was always creating my own intros for people instead of just pulling it right from their LinkedIn. And I think that's genuine. I think that's fun. I always like to surprise them with something that they probably don't want people to know, but it's fun. And so the network is just so important. And whether it's through the VBMA, whether it's through STAVMA or whatever it happens to be, being genuine in your connections is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And you reminded me, I had forgotten about the story where you helped the school do the whole promotional campaign. You just get in there. It's like, this is our challenge. Let's do something. And I really love that go-to attitude. Yeah.
Right. Or like this school, right? So now we're going virtual interviews for the first time ever, right? No one's coming to the school and skiing. And my thought process was, oh my gosh, this is scary. What if no one applies to Illinois because, you Google the picture and you see our building that kind of looks like a prison, and they're like, oh, I'm not applying to that. So we made this virtual video, and it was a lot of Jason, just give it a shot and see what happens. And so one of my friends from undergrad, again, the power of the connection, helped record the video. He kind of followed along with my aimless brain where I'm like, let's try this. And he put everything together, and it looked beautiful. And the video has over like 30 or 40,000 views. I mean, every person that applies to the University of Illinois for their interview gets that email to say like, hey, before you come visit now, check out this video. And it was an interesting time. You could see everyone had masks on, but still you get the vibe as to like what it's like as an Illinois student. And that was the goal there. I mean, that was something that had never been done before. The only school that had some sort of video like that at the time was UC Davis. They had a virtual walkthrough that was like 2 hours long. And it was like a literal walkthrough, like the tour guide was walking the whole time. I'm a short, concise, like if you've ever done insights training, I'm a red, like give me the information and let's move on. And so I wanted it to be very short and concise. I don't want people to click off the video. So 5 minutes was kind of that perfect world where they can get just enough of a tease to come on a visit.
Yeah. Well, I think students can be the best marketers for their university. One, because they can identify with the people that are coming in, they're more closely there. And so what they want to experience that short, but still like you're really seeing real life and not just a building or things like that. You're really seeing student life and their experience. And that's exactly what people want. So amazing. Again, yeah. I think all of this is so great. And I think this is why you've been able to do so much with, being almost 3 years out from veterinary school. On which note, you said, yes, within only a few months, you were already launching an AI scribe. So you were really quick to this. I think the business model, it may not be as known because you kept a lot bootstrapping, but yeah, share a little bit more about that, because another thing that I admire about you, and partly because I'm not very good at this, is that you are able to hear lots of cool ideas, but you are also able to understand when to say yes and when to say no. So what was it about this that said, yes, I want to start an AI scribe business right out of vet school?
Cool. And I guess one last thought on the last question is I didn't have any experience doing any of this stuff. And so a lot of people think that you need experience to jump in and do something before. Really, it was just research and trying it out and knowing that some things are going to work and some things aren't. I'd never made a video before. I didn't want to be, I'm on a podcast, but I didn't want to be facey. I'd rather have the university get the experience from it. And so, like an AI scribe, I had no, AI scribes didn't exist, right? So all of these things were so new. And I think that's an important point in this is just because you haven't done it doesn't mean you can't do it, right? My wife is a teacher and they need an endorsement for this. They need a credential for this. They need this. You have to go to school for 6 months to do this. But that's just not how we are in veterinary medicine, which is so exciting that you can have an idea and just do it. And so bringing it back to your question, so how did this become about? So Aaron Smiley, if you haven't met him, he is brilliant, brainiac, high energy, lots of ideas. And the reason we got connected is because I am able to say, yeah, that's a good idea, or no, that's not a good idea, or I've seen that before. How can we adjust it? So our goal was always to fix pain points of veterinarians. That's always where our motivation has been. How can we make veterinarians' lives better? So he came to me early on in vet school and was like, hey, I want to run this virtual association where we do all telemedicine. And I said, not really for me. I really like talking to clients and I really like the in-person relationship. And so not really for me. So he did his own thing over there. And then he came to me and said, when AI came out, and I remember there was an article from one of the big newspapers and it said, AI is the new printing press. And he sent it to me and he's like, think about this and see if any ideas come up. And so go back to pain points. Like, what's veterinarians not like doing? When I was pre-vet shadowing in undergrad, one of the technicians at the place I was shadowing said, why do you want to be a veterinarian? I'm like, oh, I want to help animals and people. She said, well, you should be a technician because all the doctors do is paperwork. We're the actual ones that are talking to the people and doing. And so that was an interesting thought in my head that I never thought about. So how can we make veterinarians do less paperwork? And so that conversation kind of plays in my head often. And so we tinkered around with it, and we were one of the first ones to market. There's a couple of other groups that got huge funds and grants and private equity boosts right away. And we didn't do that. We thought it was important that we were veterinarian-owned and we did things for the right reasons. And so we never got any investments. We were 100% self-funded. I mean, we have thousands of veterinarians that use it right now, save themselves hours of time a week. And that's the basis behind it is you just go in, your workflow doesn't change. A lot of this was intentional. So if you look at our platform, it's so simple. And that was the goal. Veterinarians are creatures of habit. And if anything doesn't flow in what we do, it's just put it to the side and do it the old way. So we had to be intentional with how we were doing them. I mean, there's some brilliant PIM systems out there that are far beyond anything we can comprehend. And that's the thing that's tough for a veterinarian is that's a lot of learning for me to do. And I already have a lot on my plate. So that switch can sometimes be hard. So that's how we created VetSOAP. It's really cool to have veterinarians running a company in a world where tech people and MBAs are running most of the show. And so it's been a fun journey to also be practicing full time. I think that's part of the transparency is I practice full time. And that's important to me because I'm in the trenches with everyone. When they say, hey, I want this idea, I could say, yeah, that makes total sense. Or maybe we don't put our resources there right now because I'm right there with you. So that was kind of how VetSOAP came about. He came to me with an idea. We tinkered on it and created it and we're one of the first to market. And we were very intentional with our product. I think simple and easy to use and very sticky. A lot of people that use it don't leave. We actually have a partnership with PetSmart Charity that we just announced. And one of the cool things about that is when we're recruiting people, so we're giving away 400 free AI scribes for 6 months, right? And it's so sticky. When we had some of our intro conversations, some of the other people were like, I kind of like the one I'm using. Do I have to switch? And we're like, oh, it's free. And they're like, really like the one I'm using. Do I have to switch? I think that's so cool. And I always go back to this, like as a company that has some competitors in the industry, anytime a veterinarian uses an AI scribe, it's a win for the industry. So I'm happy. So you see me plug on a lot of my talks, you see me plug all the scribes. And I really do think that they're great because it does make the industry fundamentally better. And that's another interesting thought is competing against these groups. In my mind, if it makes the veterinary space better, then I'm happy. And intellectual property is something that a lot of people talk about, where you need to keep your intellectual property close to your chest. That's your moneymaker. And I'm one of those people that if I throw a thought out there that sticks with someone that has $1 billion and they can get it done in 2 months and put it out and get the profession better, that's a win for me. It really is.
I love how it always seems to come back to how do I make somebody's life better. I think that's kind of how your different projects come. And so that I'm going to make an assumption, which is really dangerous, but I'm assuming that's kind of where how I learned about you is, you came to Western and spoke about using an AI scribe to actually get to know yourself better and see how we might be able to catch early signs of burnout. And so share the story about how the project came and what you found and where you want to take it.
Yeah, let's dig in on that. Okay, so burnout is something I don't take lightly. It's a big trigger word. I'm not a licensed clinical social worker. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. Hey, if you went to my talk, you found out I have pretty low empathy scores because I'm so red, right? Here's what's going on. Here's what we need to do to fix it. And I remember actually during one of my new grad retreats I went to, and it was one of my classmates, we did our insights training, and she was like, that we were doing a little role play where you had to break the cancer diagnosis to someone. And so I just said, oh, unfortunately, your dog has cancer, or we can do this. And she goes, Jason, how about saying you're sorry when you walk in the room before you give a diagnosis? I'm like, whoa. No one wants to hear that. I'm like, no one wants to hear that. I'm sorry. And like, no, a lot of people do. And so that was a real big turning point. So now I'm 2 weeks in and I'm already questioning how I'm going to talk to people. I'm a social butterfly in general, but now I'm already questioning that. So that was kind of where it started, was I want to be able to help new grads communicate better because, we have 2 weeks of communication training in school. I mean, some schools do it better than others, like Colorado State has a brilliant veterinary communication training program, but not every school has that. And so VetSOAP Coach is something we've been working on for a while, where it can analyze my transcripts and give me suggestions and questions as to how I can be a better communicator and tell me things that I'm doing right, things that the client responded well to as well. We're creatures of positive feedback. And so we're able to do that. And so it started there where I wanted to help new grads be better communicators. And then burnout was something that is constantly touched on. I mean, there's one AVMA study that like 1 in 3 veterinarians per year think about leaving the profession, and 84% of veterinarians have said that they've been burnt out or getting close to burnout, right? And so how do we prevent this? And so what we did was, I had no idea what was going to burn me out. And I think that's important, that I didn't go into this idea with, oh, this is what we need to do. This is why I'm burnt out, right? So we just had AI analyze everything and say, look for markers of burnout and then try to figure out why. And so my burnout markers were day of the week. So Wednesday was my worst day of the week. I mean, that makes sense. That's hump day, right? The timing of day, like I mentioned earlier, 4 to 7 p.m. is my worst time of day. And that makes sense. That's when it's so busy. I work at a 24/7 ER GP hybrid clinic. And during that time, everyone's vet closes and they send cases to us, right? And so now we're seeing walk-in ERs and our appointments at the same time. It gets wildly busy. Time of year didn't really matter to me because I'm just constantly running around while I'm in the clinic. So it doesn't really bother me that it's not light out or whatever. But that's another thing that a lot of people talk about. And type of case was really important too. And it brings me back to the new grad stuff. Type of case. So being in ER, the ER situations are really stressful, and euthanasia conversations are hard for me because I am a low empathy person. I don't want to make it seem like I have no emotions or feelings, because I do. I'm very in touch with my emotions. But when it comes to trying to help people, I always want to fix it, right? And so that was something that I struggle with, those conversations, because you cannot fix a dog that's getting put to sleep. You have one option, and it's a terrible option. And I mean, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's beautiful, but that's what it is. And so we analyze my markers for burnout, and then from there, we can then be targeted in what we do. So on Wednesdays, I always order lunch to make the day go a little bit better. I'm always thinking about, oh, tomorrow's lunch day. I get to order my lunch, and my coworkers that work on Wednesday, they know that we're ordering lunch on Wednesdays, right? And from 4 to 7, we've made some schedule adjustments so that there's a little bit bigger blocks in the appointments, that when these walk-in ERs do come in, I'm not seeing 20-minute appointments and ERs trying to fix all that together. And so I think that's an important piece of this is how do we help prevent burnout? How do we look for early markers? We're doing a study on cohort of 40 new graduate veterinarians right now, and we're going to look at early markers for burnout during their first year, and they're actually doing self-check-ins every day too. So we get to see what they think is going on, and then we're going to compare the AI's analysis to their own analysis and see if the AI can pick it up before they go, yeah, I'm a 2 out of 5 today. I'm not feeling good, or I'm a 1 out of 5 today. How can we pick that up early? And then the early things say that it's possible. We can do it. I mean, it worked. It worked for me. It worked for Dr. Smiley. We analyzed his burnout. There was one time you could see a big dip. And I said, go back to April. What happened in April? He's like, that was when I had to fire a veterinarian. He said, it was really stressful for me. We went down from 2 doctors to 1 doctor. And that's a really stressful thing for my small clinic. And I was really worked up about it. And I mean, it picked it up right away. It knew it. And so it works. The question is, how adaptable are people going to be to it? And that's why I wanted to see myself do it and be vulnerable. I mean, I told people at the talk, I'm like, you're going to learn a lot about me in this talk that you probably don't want to know and that I don't want you to know, but it's important that I'm vulnerable here so that you can see that it is true and it works. And so that's kind of how the burnout study came about, where our goal is to get this data out by January of 2027 that we're able to analyze. And again, the goal is always customized burnout prevention, not on Wednesdays by lunch, right? That's what works for me. That may not be where it works for everyone, right? Some people don't even work on Wednesdays. And so our goal is that, but it will be nice to get a little snippet of what do new graduates really burn out about? What do they worry about their first year? Is it cases? Is it communication? Is it talking about money? Is it declining care? Is it practicing gold standard, but the client's not being able to do it for whatever reason? And we'll find that out. And that's an exciting piece that's coming as well.
I'm a super positive person. This sounds really exciting. I love the ability to customize this. That said, I know that there are probably people who think about cons or they go in a different way. Has anyone mentioned a concern when it comes to using AI tools in different ways, such as analyzing your conversations?
Yeah, I think that's a scary thought. And I tell everyone that brings that up, the data needs to be in the right hands, right? As veterinarians, what I want is to make your life better, right? And so we have thousands and thousands and thousands of data points that we can analyze. We want to make sure that it's in the right hands, because there could be a time where now we don't even have one-on-one meetings because the AI is analyzing your conversations through your AI scribe, and they're telling you, hey, you saw a dog and you said, oh, it looks like she's struggling to get up. Oh no, she just gets sore. and you didn't bring up arthritis in that old dog, and that's a knock on you. And I don't want it to get to that point where AI is telling us how to do our job, because it's not. It's not a human. It doesn't know how to be a veterinarian. It's never practiced before in its life. And I think that's what's exciting about what we do at VetSOAP is our goal is to not replace the veterinarian at all. We think the veterinarian is the most important piece of this puzzle. Our goal is to enhance veterinary medicine so that we can do more of what we like and less of what we don't. More talking to people, more saving lives, less paperwork, less admin work, right? And so there are people that have said, oh yeah, that's a scary thought. When we first launched at the University of Illinois, we were talking about AI scribes in veterinary school, and where is it? I mean, if you went to veterinary school, you know that like some rotations, you see 2 cases a day. Like, is the AI scribe going to be that helpful in that scenario? No, but students need to come out practice ready. And so there was some pushback. We don't need this. We're good. And correct, in theory, you don't, but your students need to come out knowing how to use this stuff, how it works, so that their first day on the job, they don't have 40 things to worry about. They have 39 things to worry about. One less thing to worry about on their plate because, oh yeah, we use this in school. We're good to go. Let's get this thing rocking. Let's get our notes done quicker. Let's go home on time our first day. And that's really important to me. But yeah, you're right. No, there's always cuts. And I encourage people to be critical of this. We don't really know where we're going. I mean, we're veterinarians. We can't predict the future. So be critical. That's an important piece of this. I mean, when we were at Illinois, we had a faculty meeting and there were so many people that were so critical and it was so helpful. And that's kind of the 2 ways you can look at it is, oh yeah, they don't like it, or no, they want it to be helpful. So how can we be critical of it so that it is helpful? And that's what I encourage people to do. I mean, there's like AI radiology out there. And I remember I went to one talk at a conference where the whole talk was, what did AI radiology miss? It missed this and missed this and missed this and missed this. You can have another talk just like that says, what did radiologists miss? Right. And I think that's an interesting thought, and that's a scary thought. But the whole point is, don't think of it as a competitor. Think of it as a way to enhance your career. And if you can wrap your brain around that and use AI in the right ways, it can really make your life a lot better. I mean, I had a case one time, a dog went acutely blind. It was either hypertensive retinopathy, the dog's blood pressure was like in the 300s, or SARS, right? And so I made this client-friendly handout written to a 3rd grade level that explained the differences in both and why we're treating the high blood pressure first, and give it to the client within 10 seconds of them leaving. And I could have printed out, there's a lot of great resources like Veterinary Partner where you can print out a nice handout that's written by an internist, but it had the information that I wanted at the level that I wanted specific to this case. And I think that's a cool way that you can use AI too. I mean, there's so many ways that you can use AI in your daily life, but when you think about value, right? Like a client comes in and they're paying $80 to see you. Customized care is so important. And so that's an easy way to get customized care through using AI for the right reasons and bringing it all the way back. Use it for the right reasons. Be skeptical, be critical, know who's running the data behind it, right? So knowing the motivation right now is more important than ever, because using something like Claude Code or Lovable, you can make an app, you can make a website, you can code so simply. You don't need a full team of people. You don't need a veterinarian if you're a tech person to make a product now. So know who's behind it and what their motivation is. That's another important piece. And again, I know you said it, but be critical. I really, really, really do think that. Be critical. We had someone in one of our talks in Vegas that just was pushing back on everything. It was a panel of 4 experts, and she was pushing back on everything. And I was like, I love this. This is great. This is how we move the profession, because she's obviously upset, and that means that other people are going to be upset. And so how do we navigate that? So yeah, continue to be critical and purposeful. And then I always say this, and this got me a little grief in vet school, but I said, be solution oriented when you're being critical too. Think about how you can fix the problem, or if it's not worth fixing the problem, acknowledge what the problem is and why it's a problem to you. So if you don't have an idea, why is it a problem? And then from there, you can make little steps to help solve it.
Yeah, being open to working together to come up with the solutions, even if you may not have the solution right off the bat, working together with other people who can come to it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad you went that direction, because I was about to say, partnerships and working together with veterinarians and other people in the industry who are genuinely trying to make people's life better in veterinary medicine, whether it's the vets, whether it's the pet parent or whatnot. And you also talked about AI can do a lot of different things. And you had mentioned the project that you recently started partnering with PetSmart Charity, and that is actually addressing a very hot topic. Mm-hmm. So again, where did that come from? Sure. Who were you helping? What was the mission? And describe the project.
Okay, so Veterinary Innovation Council, August 2025. The first talk we get is from a researcher from UMass who says the worst thing about veterinary medicine, because she's a biology professor, she does human and dabbles in animals. She said the worst thing about animals is we have so limited data points. Like dogs can't talk, dogs can't fill out surveys. So it's hard for us to actually get data. And so when she said that, I said, oh, that's interesting. We have a lot of data at VetSOAP. I said, okay, we're going to hold that to our chest for a second. And again, being purposeful with your relationships. She was doing a genomic study on dogs, right? So how do we, and again, not a passion point of mine. And I think that's going back to, I'm able to say yes and I'm able to say no. Like, do I have the resources to help X person? Yes, I do. Is it something that's going to get me motivated and passionate? And is it something I truly think is going to help the veterinarian's daily life? That's the kind of piece where I'm able to say, if the answer is no, then maybe it's not the right time for that. And so in that specific instance, didn't seem like the right time. So then the next day, PetSmart Charities and Gallup go on the stage and they talk about their original survey that they did, where 82% of veterinarians said that they offered multiple options for care, and 29% of pet parents said they heard it. So it's a 53% gap. Over half the people are disagreeing with their veterinarian on what they heard and what they interpreted. So why is that? We don't know. And that's the exciting thing about this data, right? You can use this data on the transcripts and the conversation analysis to make $1 billion more at your large corporation. Or you can have someone like VetSOAP that's using it to try to figure out why people are declining care so that we can get more pets care. We can lower the price of visits because we're able to get more pets care. And so we're working with PetSmart Charities and we're going to analyze that data. It's 6 months of free AI scribe. You don't have to do anything extra on the veterinarian side. All you have to do is just use it, and then we'll do everything behind the scenes. Again, privacy, really important to me. And so we de-identify all the data. So there's no location, no pronouns, no names. And so that before any of the information gets sent over to the analytics, everything is burned for anything that could possibly compromise care. And so again, being a veterinarian, I understand how important that is. And so the goal is, now that we have the insight to the conversation, why are people declining care? Is it cost? Is it communication style? Is it predisposed opinions on people based on socioeconomic status or race or nationality, right? So those are things that we're going to look at and hopefully be able to guide veterinarians in a way that's helpful. I mean, it's been really cool to work with them. I mean, they're brilliant in access to care. That's their whole thing. How do we get more pets, more care? They're a nonprofit. And so partnering with them made total sense. And so when they went on that screen and said, here's what we have, we did a survey, it had great response, but we don't know what this means. That was when it went off like, okay, this is a passion point of mine. How do we get more pets, more care? Introduced myself after the talk, connected afterwards. And now we're, starting this project, and it's really exciting. The PetSmart Charities team is awesome. They're in it for the right reasons, which is another important piece. Make sure that your partners are in it for the right reasons. And this is going to be a study that changes the way we look at things. We're working with professors at UC Davis to make sure that it's ready for JAVMA, and the study will be out earlier than that. But it's just really exciting to see, like, what can we use this data? How can we use AI in the right ways? Because there's so many ways that we don't need it for. But this is one of the things that's really, really exciting to us.
I'm super excited, and maybe we can have you back on after the study is out and you can share a little bit about what you found. Again, so impressed. You're doing so much. And like I said, back to, how you did the video to help prospective students understand more about a university. You're right there with new grads and the things that they're going through in today's economy with a lot. I feel like there's so many conversations going on right now. What are your thoughts? What would you impart on other people in the veterinary industry, maybe especially the early grads, on just the first thing that comes to your mind, things that you're watching and observing and would want to impart on them?
Yeah. So I think the first year of practice, well, I guess the first 3 months of practice were probably the hardest 3 months I've ever had in my life. I came into practice thinking that I was socially ready, quickly learned from that one conversation with my classmate that, okay, maybe I do have to work on my empathetic skills. My first case I ever saw was a PUPD little Yorkie. My boss handed me the case thinking that it was going to be a UTI, and we'll put it on some amoxicillin and we'll be ready to go. And when I put the ultrasound probe on the dog, I saw not one, but 2 bladders. And quickly realized there's a lot of stuff I don't know about veterinary medicine that they didn't teach me in school. That dog had a stump pyometra, first case I ever saw. And so I think that those 3 months were really important in my development and where I'm at now, because my goal is to make those first 3 months easier. And so what I would say to new graduate veterinarians coming out is the first 3 months are going to be hard. So do your best to do things that'll make your life easier. I'm a Zillennial, so I'm right between the Gen Z and millennial. And so I hate leaving late. I hate leaving late. That's something that some of the older generation doesn't like about us millennials, Gen Zs but I promise that when you're at work, if you work your butt off and you use the AI tools and you use the resources and you have, like, if you have a diabetic ketoacidotic dog, you use your resources that work, like from ACVIM or from AHA, like you have that already printed out and ready to go. So you don't have to spend all that time researching. You can say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Boom, 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 and be done. I think all that stuff is really helpful. I tell people to ask their clinics, what are the 15, 20 most common cases they see, and do they have standard protocol for that stuff? So that when I come out and I have a coughing dog, I could say, okay, oh my gosh, I have so many thoughts in my head. What's really important, right? I had a 11-year-old dog that came out. It was doing the classic kennel cough. And I was like, oh, I'm locked in on kennel cough. That makes sense, right? But the dog didn't go to daycare. It didn't go to boarding, and it was 11. So giving it cough tablets or doxycycline and going home didn't really make sense. And that was why my mentor was like, Jason, think about the signalman here. Maybe take an x-ray. Took an x-ray, had a lung mass, right? And so those things are important, but I was not thinking about that because in my head, oh, this dog had this classic cough, phlegm. I'm like, that's the kennel cough. So what I would tell new grads again is ask for standards, advocate for yourself, create psychologically safe environments around you. So I think one of the reasons that I've been pretty good in practice is I'm an open book. I want people to come up to me. I want them to give me feedback. People that practice with me know I'm not the best. I forget stuff. I have a lot on my mind at all times. And so that's why I love my technicians too. So they're like, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? I'm like, yes, did that. Nope, forgot about that. Yes, did that. And that's kind of the other piece, is empower your technicians to be good technicians. So the coolest thing at the place that I was trained at is sometimes it's easy for the veterinarians that are training the new graduates to say, I'm going to take the best tech and we're going to work hard. And then you're going to take one of the slower technicians and you guys are going to just take it easy. But I push it the other way. I think as a clinic, you need to be giving the new grad the best technician so that they can kind of guide them in the way. I mean, there's been so many times where I'm in surgery and they'll be like, do you want the basin now? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Do you want me to hook up the flush now? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea, right? And so they've saved me a bunch of time. Or like you have the technician that the dog's not doing great under anesthesia and they're already adjusting the ISO levels and getting the fluid bolus, right? Stuff that, again, we don't have to think about. There's so many things that are on the new graduate's mind as soon as they come out. And practicing medicine is, in theory, number one, but there's so much more than just practicing the medicine. It's talking to your clients. It's talking to your coworkers. It's talking to management. There's so much more to that. So be psychologically safe to talk to your mentor and be open and honest with yourself. If something is not going the way you want it to, verbalize it so that you can try to work it. I mean, too often we just put our head down and say, oh, this is just the way it is. And I'm not a believer in that. And so I think that's the majority of it is stand up for yourself. You know what's important to you. Then do it the right way, right? Be kind about it. Be caring about it. Be purposeful in the way you're saying it, because that's how you get things done. If you come to someone complaining in a not nice way, they're much, much, much less likely to do it. Where if you like, hey, this has been really bothering me, it's something that I'm really struggling with, can you help me figure out a solution? Your coworkers are much more likely to help you out then.
Very good perspective. And so I know you mentioned to me too, how are you able to do full-time practice and then VetSOAP, which you're obviously very passionate about. You're getting partnerships. That's a lot of work too. How are you able to do so much?
Yeah, that's the millennial mindset, honestly. So I think that I push back against some of the older generations because they're like, oh, you guys don't work hard. I said, no, it's a different level of work. I am one of those people, when I'm in the clinic, I'm busting my butt in the clinic. Now I'm leaving on time. I don't want to stay 3 hours, like 4 hours late, right? And that's the old mindset is you stay 4 hours late, you do your notes when you leave. I love watching TV. The Pit is on right now, which is this like ER drama. And the most recent episode they were like, when am I supposed to do my notes? And the older doctor said, after the shift, like the rest of us. It doesn't need to be that way. And so I think that's part of the reason I've been able to do both is when I'm there, I'm grinding and I'm working hard. And any off moment I have, I'm working on something so that I can get out on time, even early. There's going to be days where that emergency hemoabdomen comes in and I have to stay late to do the surgery. But more often than not, that surgery doesn't come in and we can do what we need to do to get out on time. Efficiency is always what's running in my brain. How can I do this more efficiently? What do I really need to be doing, right? Do I need to be taking temperatures and taking x-rays and getting blood draws and scaling teeth? No, that's something that my technicians can do. That's what they want to do. That's why they became a technician, so that they can do that kind of stuff. So I don't need to be doing that. And so being purposeful while I'm in the clinic, so that one, when I'm out of the clinic, I still am in a good mindset to do work. And two, I have more time when I'm outside of the clinic to do stuff. I mean, some of my afternoons have looked a little differently, where I'm sitting on the couch watching TV instead of historically like playing video games or something. Now I'm tinkering on VetSOAP. And that's what's fun, is if you're doing something you're passionate about, it's a lot easier to enjoy the journey and enjoy the tinker more than if it's something that you're not passionate about and you're doing it as a side hustle to try to make some money. That can be difficult. But that's why I argue millennials, Gen Zs, it's a very interesting time. And if you motivate us in the right way, we can get a lot done quickly, especially with the technology boom that we're in right now.
Yeah, you're the perfect example. So anybody has questions, listen to this episode. And the last question that I always like to end on is, what is something you're really grateful for right now?
A lot of things. I mean, I'm a grateful person. I went to a Veterinary talk during my third year, and then the guy brushed over it, but it's something that has stuck with me. At the end of each day, he would say, write down the 3 things that most positively impacted you that day. And in 14 days, your brain will be wired to look for what's good in the world. And that's science. That's not like, oh, yeah, that's just him being him. That's a Harvard study that was done in Indian adolescent, Chinese kids, United States adults, right? These are like different groups of people in different parts of the world that show that it works, that you can rewire your brain to look for more things. And so in general, I'm a grateful person because of that. I did that for years, where every night I'd write down the 3 things. And so that when something happened that was not great, I say, okay, that was one not great thing, but look at these things that happened today that were awesome, right? And so when I think about like what's going on right now, I mean, my hospital has been awesome support. My team is awesome. My sister's dog went down and back the other day, and just the support from them has been amazing with hospitalization and caring and asking for updates. I'm such a family person. So having family close by that I'm close with, my dad and I, we do this thing called Breakfast Club, which has become a joke in the family because I work 4 days a week, but sometimes it's Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm off. And me and my dad, he just recently retired, we'll go to breakfast and then hang out and talk. And I'm really grateful for that. That's something I don't take for granted. One of my favorite, again, VPMA talks was from Aaron Smiley gave a talk. And at the end of it, he'd do all of his Aaronisms. So everything that he thinks is important. And at the end of it, he ended with this, it's just the slide said that was short. And it's what I end all of my talks with now. The quote behind it was, his grandpa was on his deathbed and he was, 17, 18 years old. And he asked his grandpa, he's like, give me some wisdom. Give me the one piece of advice that you have. And he was hoping he was going to say something brilliant. And here's the key to success. And all he said was, that was short. And that's a motivator for me because, life is short. And so doing things that you're passionate about and you're happy about. And so like this breakfast club, like my dad will always send a picture when we're there. And my mom, who's still working, is like, oh, it must be nice to get breakfast, and jokes about it. But it really is something that's important to us. And so I'm grateful for my work environment. All of the stuff that's happening with VetSOAP, PetSmart Charities is amazing. And I'm really excited for that. But at the end of the day, I'm a family person. I'm doing this all so that I can support other veterinarians. I can support my family. That's what I'm grateful for. Good health, being able to, on a day like today, I'm going to record this podcast. I'm going to go pick up my sister's down dog. My coworker is going to do acupuncture on it. And I go back to like, why is that the case? And I think being a good person, and that's what, when I gave a talk in Western about how to create your own business while practicing. And my number one slide that I saw people pull their phone out for to take pictures, it costs $0 to be a good person. I was taking this other class through Harvard and there was this one guy and we were putting this little group together. And he's like, so what kind of leader are you going to be? Are you going to be the hardo? Or are you going to be the guy that everyone goes to but can't actually do anything business-wise? And I was like, how about a little bit of both? Like you can do business stuff and you could be someone. And he said, no, that doesn't exist. That's not a real person. And so then in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, that was a challenge. I'm going to try to be the person that, one, understands the business and two, could be nice. Because I think you can get a lot done on a team when, one, you're in a psychologically safe area where people can come to you with their mistakes. I mean, I think about one case that I had where we overdosed the dog on hydromorphone. Right away, the technician came up to me and was like, I gave 0.4 instead of 0.04. And I think that was so good so my first thought is, oh my gosh, thank goodness you came up to me and told me that. Because it would have been easy for you'd be like, oh, I'm not going to say anything. But she was so psychologically safe with me. She came right up to me. We just gave it the Narcan and the dog did fine. That was the easy solution. And so my gut response was, oh, thank goodness you told me. Whereas sometimes our initial response is, that's my license on the line. You messed up. If I get sued because of this, you're gone, right? And so it really does cost $0 to be a good person. And I think that's a lot of where my connections and networking come from is this is genuine. This is not me putting on a show. I'm not going to get off this call and be like, oh, that was so annoying that I had to, I'm going to be buzzed all day about the conversation that we have, and that people get to listen and maybe take one thing from it. I mean, if one person takes one thing from this conversation, again, veterinary medicine got better. So that's so exciting to me.
That was the amazing Dr. Jason Szumski. I hope you are leaving feeling inspired. When we say yes to something, it means we are saying no to something else. So knowing when to say yes or no is such an important skill to learn to move more towards happiness and fulfillment. And if you only remember one thing, I love that Jason reminds us about kindness. If this episode resonates with you, the best thing you can do is subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share it with someone in your life who you think needs to hear it. That's how this community grows, one good conversation passed along to the right person. And if you want to go deeper on today's episode, I've put together a podcast club guide over on the Sprinkle of Wisdom Substack that I will link in the show notes. It's a great way to sit with the takeaways, whether on your own or with your team. Until next time, keep reimagining what's possible in veterinary life.